everyone. I'm your host, Miles. We're happy to have you back here at X-Rays, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. Today's episode is a very special one because we're marking another milestone with one of our longtime partners as they celebrate 24 years of building capability, driving global standards, elevating people, and raising the bar for what ethical, sustainable business should look like. And that's not something many organizations can say out loud. At the center of that journey is a leader who has spent over 4 decades helping industries strengthen their competence, adopt responsible practices, and build organizations that stand the test of time. His company, ACI Global, is a founding member of the GRI and has long championed corporate social responsibility, sustainability, and not to forget, of course, continuous improvement. Years before these became buzzwords. And I'm talking about none other than the managing director and CEO of ACI Global and e-Quip, the one and only Ian Erskine.
And good morning again, Miles, and all
Good
our viewers.
morning.
And I trust that not only yourself, Miles, but everyone else have had a wonderful weekend with
Uh-huh.
family, good friends, and yes, and truly, as I keep saying to people, made use of that 86,400 dollars in the memory bank. And
Uh-huh.
um, yes, and because I think it's so important. And again, particularly in the troubled world we're in at the moment, I think if we just concentrate back on our families, make sure we're all happy within our families and we're growing personally, I think we'll be fine.
I agree. And thank you again for giving me the opportunity to talk to you again. Especially today is extra meaningful, Ian, because we're celebrating ACI Global's 24 years, 24 incredible years. It's the perfect time to explore how ACI has built such a strong reputation, your focus on capability and social license, and what the future now looks like for the industries you support. So, first, again, congratulations on your anniversary. Two
Thank you.
decades and a little more in this space is a major achievement. So, looking back at that journey, beautiful journey, what would you say has been the core belief or principle that's allowed ACI Global to stay relevant, trusted, and impactful across so many industries for so long?
And I think this is an interesting question because I've really got to go back past even the formation of ACI Global, because before ACI Global, we were the On Eden Enterprises. Now, we built that company based on James and Eden's overseas transport company, the shipping line. And if you go back many, many years and years and years, um, and we built it on James and Eden's philosophy of having people work with him to develop his shipping lines. Now, the time we're talking about here was where the world was beginning to look upon slave trade, make use of slave trade, but then look at how you could move on from slave trade for those people that were coming out of it to go into real meaningful jobs to support their families. Now, that's what James Eden's ethos was all about, the Eden line. And I employ people to actually do a search online, bring it up. It was a magnificent series many years ago. And like I said, that was where the philosophy was born. Okay. So we've taken that philosophy, we joined the GRI 24 years ago and built upon that relationship as well. But it's
Ah,
always been built on people. People matter.
mhm.
And as you know, I become very concerned when people talk about replacing people with machines and robots, looking at the learning system and say, oh, we don't really need to involve people. We'll put machines in there. And I think that's well, I don't think I know, that's a retrograde step. And we've got to maintain our focus on people to be involved. And I think that's the core that message I want to continue to get across to people and live and learn as the journey continues.
Right. And, I'm sure a lot of leaders or founders are still trying to catch up to that mindset, Ian. I mean, when you build a company on principles rather than trends and building up on the people itself, longevity becomes a natural byproduct, I guess. And speaking of strong foundations, Ian, one thing ACI Global has always been known for is its commitment to corporate social responsibility and sustainability long before they became global expectations. How have these principles shaped the way ACI Global approaches capability development for organizations today?
Well, I think, again, this comes back to experience from myself and others, of course, and even going back to the James and Eden line, which we built our first company on Eden Enterprises, was built on that philosophy of ethics, sustainability, and in those years, in the shipping lines, they had to live through changes to the climates where they'd set out for sea and they'd almost get sunk because of huge storms which they had to encounter. But at the end of the day, people endured. And, and this what happens in life today. We have little issues that become big issues, which we have to actually fight ourselves. And in Christianity, one of the most important things our Lord has taught us is that you have to believe in yourself. Now, if you don't believe in yourself, you can't expect others not only to believe in you, but at the end of the day, you can't lead. You have to be able to lead as an example. And I guess that's where all this comes from, leading by example, learning from experiences. And as I quite often mention in reference to environmental sustainability, people quite often talk to me about, oh, we've got to stop climate change. And I say, well, changes to climate, and climate is always changing. And the most important thing I say to people with environmental sustainability, you have to live and learn from the lessons that we are thrown at.
Mhm.
Again, one of the ones we had to live with was a 1 in 200 year rain event. It
Uh-huh.
happened. Now, we thought we were prepared, but we were well and truly not prepared. But what we actually had then to do was turn around and say, okay, well, if that's going to happen 1 in 200 years, what if a 1 in 300 or 1 in 400 year rain event comes? And think back through the centuries and centuries and centuries ago when the whole planet was covered in water. That's a
Uh-huh.
fact.
Mhm.
And this is what you have to realise is that change. And I want people just to employ, and for goodness sake, as we discussed before coming on air, stop calling people left or right or whatever. You're either right or you're wrong in your the way you think. Now you have to be mature enough to be able to discuss and debate the issues. And
Mhm.
look, quite often it's been proved that I was wrong, where you've got to step back and say, okay, I hear your point. Yes, you are right. You'll take that lesson on board. And again, this is where your intuition starts to kick in because it goes into your brain and it's just those little nudges. And people say, what does actual intuition means? Right? And it's a bit like the other day, and I think I mentioned to you where I nearly got cleaned up by an e-scooter. I was beginning to step around the corner of a building, and there was something that came to mind. My brain was nudging me, be careful. And the next minute, flashed straight past me on the left hand side was an e-bike, right? Now he'd gone nearly 5 to 10 meters before he turned back to me and shouted out, oh, look, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But if I'd taken one more pace, and ignored my intuition, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm saying is intuition.
Mhm.
And we have to live by our intuitions. Okay. And
Mhm.
your intuition tells you when before you cross a busy road, look to the left, look to the right, and you only proceed once it's safe to do so.
Yeah, it's clear. And you're right. How would others be able to believe you if you don't believe in yourself? I mean, it's a refreshing reminder. Your approach really connects the dots between people, performance, and purpose. So let's talk about your emphasis on an organization's social license, Ian. It's a term leaders often throw around, but I'm sure many don't fully understand how to measure it, build it, or protect it. So, from your experience, what does social license truly mean in the context of ACI Global? And why has it become such a critical part of organizational capability in 2025?
Well, I think obviously now it's become a critical part because technology is moving so quickly, and in some
Mhm.
respects, to me, it's moving too quickly without people using their intuition, using their own knowledge to say, let's just stop and consider where we're going with this. And again, I take people back. If you stop and think about it, you'll say, well, no, I don't really want a machine to be able to take over what I'm wanting to think about. Okay. And, what I want people to do is have that ability to think through those issues themselves.
Mhm.
Now, again, we spoke about the 1 in 200 year rain event. Now, I say to people, what if? What if the internet is made unavailable to us within 24 hours? So we get up tomorrow morning, our alarm hasn't gone off, right? All of a sudden we wake up and say, oh my goodness me, why hasn't the alarm woken me off? You look around, there's no power, no internet. Now, what are you going to do? You're all going to just climb up back into bed and stay there? You have to work a way around it, right? And this is what I'm saying to people, just stop and think what you would do, right? And for argument's sake, when you got to work, the doors are all locked electronically and so forth, all hooked into the internet. Okay. How are you going to get into your office?
Mhm.
Okay. Some people have key access and so forth. That's fine. Eventually, you would work around it, right? You would work around, okay, well, I've got to go back to a notepad and a biro.
Uh-huh.
Actually got to write myself notes. Okay. Okay. Phones are not working because most of it's all run on internet and so forth. But eventually people will realize, wow, I've got to keep that appointment. So I've actually got to go to the doctor's surgery to actually attend, right? The doctor doesn't have to have a machine to see me, observe, look, discuss, hear, write down notes, right? We would manage. Now, what we're trying to do here is demonstrate that with our social license in reference to people are our most important asset, right? We've got to look at human insight, which we've just been talking about it. We have to be able to look at getting around an issue, right? Whether that's the internet or whether there's been a significant change in climate. Okay. We're in the middle of summer, but all of a sudden we've had a huge downburst, a cloud burst, and all of a sudden it's changed from 45 degrees or 40 plus degrees to
Mhm.
15 degrees and below. You just don't walk outside without a jumper on or things like that. We adapt.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm trying to explain here is that's for making us think ourselves, okay? And that's the natural thing for ourselves to do. That's the natural thing of the brain. We'll do that. That's what we have a brain for. The thing that I think we've been forced into this sense of false security is, oh no, AI can do all that, machines can do all that, and things like that. And I think that's a very dangerous thing. I don't think I know. I believe that's a very
It
dangerous thing
is. Mhm.
because it's actually stopping ourselves thinking. So our brains, and they're very clever, they'll get to the point where they'll switch off and they say, oh, well, you're not going to rely on me anymore. You rely on your blaster machine. If it goes flat or runs out of battery, maybe then you might call on me again, things like that. So
Mhm.
there. So we talk about intuition, where that's your brain telling you. So people often look upon it as a sixth sense, or you might feel a nudge this way or something. Just there's that feeling that something's not right. Okay. Now, we've then got to think of cognitive thinking. So you decipher the information. Okay. Now,
Mhm.
surprising, there's a significant amount of information that your brain gathers, but the brain throws it out because it's surplus to requirements and it's meaningless. Now, in some respects, I think we're going to rapidly begin to realise this is the case in point which is happening now with AI and the amount of data that is being captured. Now, I've spoken to some of the people that are actually well and truly in the know, where they're beginning to question, wow, the amount of knowledge that we're actually capturing into these data centres.
Mm-hmm.
You're capturing keystrokes, impressions, everything that a person's doing on their mobile phones. And they're now openly saying, wow, okay, what are we going to do with this information? Not only does it clutter up data centres, it makes it almost nigh impossible to recover personal information, which is by law what they have to do.
Uh-huh.
And that's where I'm saying. So that's your cognitive thinking. And obviously, at the end of the day, we must be able to have oversight to say, no, we're not going to go that way because that is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we go back to the philosophy of throw this idea out that people are right or people are left. People are either right or they're wrong.
Yeah.
That's what we have to strive for. And being right, you have to have the confidence, the capability, the foresight to actually demonstrate to people if they're misunderstanding what you're talking about or why you feel you're right. You've got to have the capability to stand up, speak your mind, and this is very much what we endeavour to do with our training courses. Give the people the capability to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
Give the people the capability to say, well, I'm not right all the time, but in this direction we're going, this is the right way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Let's listen to each other as we discuss things
Mm-hmm.
and put things in place. Okay. Now, for argument's sake, if there's a serious issue that comes about, right, we have to collectively put our minds to work and we will come up with a way of solutions to a problem. Now, whether that's the internet being down for a extended period of time, or whether that's a period where we have extended rainfall, where we have extreme flooding, we
Mm-hmm.
have to get around with that to actually continue our lives. Because we don't live in caves and we don't lock ourselves away in a cave and say, oh, it's going to go away in a period of time. No, we have lives we have to lead. And again, that's very much part of our social license, is giving people the ability to understand we'll take them on that lifelong journey
Mm-hmm.
with our lifetime learning.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's
And I
all built on the social license.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, we've discussed before how critical cognitive thinking is. I mean, the human insight and how to get around the issue with the issue. The way you're framing social license, Ian, makes it feel less abstract and more like a practical business asset. It's something many companies underestimate, I guess. This idea that you're not just operating in a market, you're operating with society's permission and having people as a center of your goals. I mean, as a center of the organization. Once organizations understand the value of social license, the next big question is always okay, so how do we build it? ACI Global's accelerating continuous improvement model seems to give companies a very structured path. So, how do you help companies translate competence, skills, and capability into stronger trust, accountability, and long term sustainability?
Well, again, it comes back to people, and each and every one of us have to have the ability, because generally we are all working within a team environment. So it's just not ourselves. We're dealing with or working within half a dozen people around us and things like that. And it starts at the very start when people get to work. We have to be prepared to communicate. So again, it's that smile which indicates to everyone we're happy, we're listening, we want to hear how everyone is, right? That's your brain through your smile is telling people that. So when people get to work, if they don't have a smile on the face, just ask them that simple question. How are you today?
Yeah.
Now, generally, what happens if people have had a bad night or something like that, and quite often the telltale signs are the yawning, okay, the wiping of the eyes, ask that question, and more than likely the person will say, no, I had an absolute dreadful night. Now, this is where we have to be prepared to speak up and say, well, perhaps you should go home, have a
Mm-hmm.
sleep, and recover. Now, often you will get, oh no, but I've got to work because if I don't work, I'm not going to get paid. Now,
Of course.
99% of owners of a business will simply say, no, 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 no worry about pay. Your pay's there. Go home, take time and relax, turn off, put effort into bringing your family back together if that's an issue that you have, right? And again, this is the cognitive thinking. Everyone's brains are beginning to click and think, wow, how can I help Sally in her job? Is
Mm-hmm.
she capable of staying on? Perhaps I can take a couple of her tasks on her behalf and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, people centric, we're looking after each other in our workplaces and are prepared to help each other. And again, I think this is the most important thing where I think we're tending to lose sight of that with some of the technologies that are becoming embedded in our workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Software and technology, and I guess AI is a classic one where it's stepping in there and trying to take over your brain and your way of thinking.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying to people is, no, no, no. If you're going to do a search for something on the internet, look for Wikipedia or one of those traditional ways of finding your information. Don't put it out to AI and get it to go away and pull out of the huge database and come back with an explanation,
Mm-hmm.
or simply do it, or just turn to the person beside you and ask them the question.
Right. It's
Okay?
more reliable.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, completely,
Yeah.
completely more reliable.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, people focused. We have to remain focused on where we're all going,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's our way of life that we want to protect. We don't want our way of life to be dictated to by a machine or
Mm-hmm.
dictated to, well, put it bluntly, politicians, right? Or people that have a lot of money, the rich people and things like that, demanding we do this, we do that. No, you don't do that. No, we'll tell you what meat to eat and things like that. We don't want that in our lives.
Mm-hmm. It's all about moving forward because
Yes,
at the end of the day, capability is not just a certification on a wall. It's about behavior, consistency. It's people doing the right things even when nobody's watching. And your
exactly.
model, Ian, makes that measurable and aspirational. And of course, when we celebrate 24 years, it's impossible not to look ahead with industries moving so quickly. As you said earlier, AI, data, cybersecurity risk, new regulatory landscapes, shifting sustainability demands. There's a lot. What exciting directions or new offerings are you working on at ACI Global and e-Quip to help professionals and organizations not only stay compliant, but genuinely future ready, socially responsible, and competitive?
Well, I guess we're stepping into that already where we're mixing personal certification with organisational certification. But as you've heard me mention a couple of times since we returned from our overseas tour, was that we're now looking at becoming involved with a couple of the major universities around the world where we can offer our senior students and people that have been come through an organisation and are just wanting to do that extra little bit of learning and things like that. So we're wanting to develop a relationship with a couple of the major universities, right? One of those is the Charles Darwin College in Cambridge. Another one, and where I've been talking with Marcus, he actually went to Cambridge College. So we already have that, and I guess I'm just looking at the time, so we're getting close to our shut off. So that's the direction we are heading in, yes.
Amazing. And it sounds really exciting, Ian. I mean, it reminds me of something I always tell people. in sales and marketing. The companies that succeed aren't the ones who just react. They're the ones who prepare. You
Yes.
partnering with different or institutions, it sounds like ACI Global is really helping organizations do exactly that. And
Yes.
this has been, as usual, an insightful conversation, Ian. What I love about talking with you is how you simplify the big concepts: capability, social license, continuous improvement, and connect them back to people. Sustainability, as we know, is about building organizations that remain upright, accountable, and respected year after year. In this case, decades after decades.
Yes, and I'll just close off by saying, why do you need AI when all you need is ACI, which is
Mhm.
accelerating continuous improvement? That's what we're all about. And I
Uh-huh.
just want to let's end it there, and we'll take up this discussion next week, where we
Mhm.
take the next level, where the accelerating continuous improvement is going to take us all.
Yeah. Why you need AI if you have ACI?
It's so true. Spot on.
Thank you, Ian, for sharing the principles that have carried ACI Global through 24 successful years. And congratulations again on this milestone. I'm really honored to be somehow part of this huge e celebration.
No, no, the pleasure is all mine and ACI Global's. I indeed inform you of that. You are a part of the team because you're so professional, and X-Rays are a wonderful organisation to be part of.
Thank you so much, Ian. It's a pleasure. And if this episode made you curious about their capability framework, or maybe the accelerating continuous improvement model, or maybe how your organization can strengthen its competence and social license, the site to check out is aciglobal.com.au. They're incredibly approachable, and if you're looking to build up your professional certification, strengthen your team, or future proof your organization, they're definitely the people to talk to. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. Ian and I will be back for another episode soon. This has been your host, Miles. Stay focused and inspired with X Rays.